Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, bringing you the obvious. Sekiro, Shadows Dies Twice needs to respect its players and add an easy mode. So we've already reached the point where this new game by FromSoftware is already demolishing so-called gaming journalists. Now, I'll be the first to admit that the Souls games are not a walk in the park, but you get better at them. They are very well balanced, and if you try enough and you pay attention and you learn the mechanics, you too can become a pairing master killing god. But then you have the people, the filthy casuals who complain. And apparently Sekiro is the Dark Souls of Dark Souls, because it's even harder than Dark Souls. Or so I hear. I haven't had the pleasure of checking it out yet, but I already know this is garbage. It's time, once again, to revisit an old saw. It was true of Dark Souls 3. It was true of Bloodborne. It was true of all the other FromSoftware games, and will keep being true until the only acceptable conclusion. One of these games finally puts in an easy mode. You know, I actually had to stop talking for a while because I couldn't even think of a response. I'm literally speechless that you, some nobody, some journalist online who makes these crap articles, would actually think that a Japanese game needs to change to suit your tastes because it's too hard for you, because you're a noob, because you need to get good. It's unbelievable. The entitlement, the level of entitlement is beyond. That hasn't happened yet. And so here we are. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice needs an easy mode. Hello, old saw. I'll be honest. It's not that nice to see you again. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is the latest offering from FromSoftware. Is this supposed to be a pun? It just made me angry. A developer known for, among other things, punishingly difficult game that set a new standard for how much abuse the modern player is able to take. These games are actually not that hard. Even Dark Souls 3, which was definitely harder than 2 and 1, I was still able to get pretty decent at. I've actually been having a blast. See, I'm currently working through Dark Souls 3. You can see me here parry this boss. And actually, this is one of my favorite fights in the game. It took me quite a few times, but eventually I was able to defeat the boss. It has 3 stages. It's absolutely an amazing fight, and I was able to crush it in the end. It was great. I was great. You become better. That's the whole thing about Souls game. You start out an absolute squishy blob that can actually absolutely die in one hit. And I always start as the deprived class at level 1 because I like controlling my leveling. And I was still able to kill the crystal lizard at the beginning of the game. You just have to keep trying, and you get better, and you learn the mechanics, and then you can parry, and it's awesome. But not if you're a soy boy noob who can't do anything and can't even play a moderately difficult game. Because trust me, there are games out there that are even harder and more bullshit. Dark Souls is not one of them. It has always maintained some level of fairness. And there's no level cap. You can literally level up until you're strong enough. But anyways, I'm getting off track. It debuted this new style with Demon Souls and cemented it with Dark Souls before swaggering across the gaming industry with Bloodborne, my drug of choice, and one of the most engaging gaming experiences I ever had. Now, well, Bloodborne must have been easier then. I haven't played it yet, but if this guy likes it, how bad could it be? These games have achieved a kind of cult status in certain corners of the gaming community, where people use them as a kind of litmus test for whether someone is a true gamer or a filthy casual. Yeah, filthy casual gives up after the first try, after the third try, after the 5th try, maybe even after the 10th try. A true gamer is someone who simply keeps trying until they're good at it. And this is a good allegory for life. If you want to be good at anything, you're going to have to fail over and over and over and over again. Something that's very and extremely difficult for even Souls gamers to do in real life, but it completely applies. The fact that these games don't have any difficulty settings means that only a certain sort of player with the time, inclination, reaction speed, and lack of physical issues will ever see the final boss fight anywhere but on Twitch. This is a problem. No, it's not. It's not a problem that you're a filthy casual and you can't play these games. It's your fault for giving up. It's your fault for being lame. Now, if someone has a physical ailment and they literally can't play the game, it's probably not the game for them to begin with. There's plenty of games that don't rely on reaction time, because this is something anyone that's relatively normal is able to do. They can become better, they can improve their predictions, they can compensate in some way for their lack of physical and genetic talent, let's say. But there's plenty of games that don't rely on that. So, someone with a physical ailment could play an RTS, real-time strategy game, or a simulation game. They could easily do that. The game doesn't need to change just to suit people who suck. My problem with these is that I don't think I'd write any of these articles if I didn't like them so much. There are other difficult games I won't play and whatever, but the difficulty is only one part of what defines these games for me. And honestly, it's not the most important part. FromSoftware has some of the best world building in the business, and I argue the best character design. Early on Sekiro, I had to sneak under a bridge, where I found this bizarre misshapen hermit man that lunged at me with a wicked knife, from underneath a broad straw hat. It was gross and strange, the sort of thing you can almost smell. The first glimpse I had of the malformed underbelly of this world, I had only taken my first steps into. And this guy's a terrible writer to top it off. I understand that had is grammatically correct. I mean, you can use repeating phrases and words, but it's generally frowned upon, even by me, who's a free-form writer and basically does everything in freestyle. I don't like to repeat the words. You can make a new sentence. I mean, normally what you're supposed to write is, the first glimpse I had of the malformed underbelly. I'm starting to understand why this guy wants an easy mode. I believe he may be mentally challenged. That's what I remember from Bloodborne more than anything. Something about the lonely, horrible way these characters move in is so endlessly fascinating that I could watch him all day. And every time I see one, I just need to see the rest. Lots of developers have attempted to imitate From's style of aggressively spare storytelling that relies on opaque item descriptions and occasional short dialogue to build out worlds that seem much larger than our own character comprehension. But only Hollow Knight ever came close to what makes these games special. Citation needed. This guy is a noob. This guy is a fake. He's a phony. He's one of those games journalists that pretends like they know shit about games. And I'm not surprised he's never heard of Salt and Soul, because that, my friend, is probably the closest thing to the Souls experience that I remember. Not as good, but definitely fun and engaging. And to be fair, I've never played Hollow Knight, but there's more games out there that actually do match the style. And the word you're looking for is minimalism. That's the thing about Dark Souls. It makes excellent use of minimal storytelling, minimal dialogue, and yet there's so much lore. There's a lot behind everything. It doesn't explain everything, and there's a lot to explore. I'm tired of casualization ruining my favorite video games. I've seen it happen all over the industry. All of these games have been made watered down and easier. The Fallout games, Skyrim, The Elder Scrolls, all of these are a good example of casuals ruining the industry, ruining the games, because the developers are like, we need to make games that are easier and more accessible to everyone. So let's completely ruin the game, simplify it, make it so that even someone who's absolutely brainless can play. And it completely destroys the series. The Sims is ruined. The Elder Scrolls is ruined. Fallout is ruined. I could go on and on about all the games that have been ruined by casualization. It's absolute cancer. Instead of challenging people to get good, the industry just making it easier and more accessible because they want those dollars, because they don't care about making games. Maybe they have limited gaming time and don't want to spend the time fighting Lady Butterfly 100 times in a row. Maybe they're just not that good at timing their parries. Maybe they get frustrated and don't like being frustrated just now. I've never read anything more millennial, anything more soy boy. Like, this is the level of resilience in the modern era. People are so coddled. They're such little babies that they can't even handle a little bit of challenge, a little bit of struggle, a little bit of adversity. Nobody likes to be frustrated, but that's why you focus on becoming stronger, better, faster, longer. That's how it goes. In easy mode would allow an order of magnitude, more players to see what From has built, and yet these experiences remained walled off for those millions of people for reasons that I just can't parse. Those experiences aren't walled off to anyone. You can get better as long as you have a functioning body. You can use your fingers, both your hands. You can get better at the game. There's people who beat Dark Souls on Guitar Hero, of all things, of a driving wheel. It's all about learning. That's what the games are built around. Learning. And even me, who has terrible reaction times, is able to keep up with the speed and virility of even Dark Souls 3. And I'm sure Sekiro will be no different. What's particularly galling about Sekiro is that all other FromSoftware games at least had a sort of safety valve to allow you to move past the game's most difficult boss encounters with a little help by summoning other players into your game. Sekiro removes even that. So this soy boy, this entire time, was using summons as a crutch. He couldn't beat the bosses, he gave up. He summoned people to make it easier. Those of you that do jolly cooperation know that a lot of enemies and bosses are a lot easier with co-op. This is why you don't use co-op as a crutch, because that's what it is, a crutch. It's something to make things easier. You need to be able to beat a boss solo. Otherwise, you're just not going to be ready. You won't be ready for the other stuff the game's going to throw at you. There's a lot of talk about respecting the player when it comes to not including an easy mode, an idea that all players can and should play this game in particular punishing way. It's not punishing if you actually take the time to get good. It doesn't even take that long. You won't die 100 times. I mean, I think the most I ever died on a boss was 20 times. And yet I think the lack of an easy mode showcases the exact opposite. It shows an almost stunning lack of respect for players with the idea that they cannot be trusted with their own gameplay experience. You can't. You can't be trusted because you're going to go easy mode, because you're a noob, because you suck. Do I need to make this any more clear? The world does not owe you an easy mode. Neither does From. If you don't like the game, play something easier. I don't know, play Angry Birds. You fake gamer. That even those who want a challenging game would somehow be lured by the siren song of lower difficulties and destroy their own experience because they're too impatient or too immature to know what they actually want. This guy is so dumb. You're making the argument that the game's too hard, it needs an easy mode. And then you're also trying to say, no, the easy mode won't totally lure casuals into taking the easy route instead of actually getting any better. You're contradicting yourself, you're actually exposing yourself to your bull. This summoning system is a perfect example of this. I never once used it while playing Bloodborne because I knew what experience I wanted. I didn't get as into Dark Souls 3, and so I used it liberally. No, you just sucked. God, I can't stand this guy. Let's just skip to the end. And so I'd say to From fans, believe in yourself. Know that you can play the game you want to play, even if others are playing the game they want to play. An easy mode does not have to be complicated. Ideally, I like to see the sort of deeper customization that Celeste has, but all you need to do is turn up the damage the player does and turn down the damage the enemies do. That's it. I do not at this point expect to ever see my wish granted, but it is my wish just the same. Wish denied. I do not want to see these games ruined by filthy casuals, and I certainly don't want to see Japanese developers bowing down to all the soy boys and little weaklings in the West, because I'm absolutely sick of the gaming industry. I love gaming. I love video games. I want to make videos about games too, but it's so rare that I find a game that I can tolerate, that hasn't been watered down into absolute garbage trash. Seriously. Not only that, and I end up playing most games really late because I actually like taking my time with games and really doing something special. But I digress. This guy is just one example of all the gaming journalists who shouldn't be making reviews about games, who shouldn't be in this industry, who shouldn't be here. If you suck, go play an easy game. Go play your mobile games. Get out or get good. You know, it's not a challenge. Anyone's capable of learning. You don't really need that much time. And so what if it takes you a while? So what? Not everything's a cakewalk. You know, this is real life. People are so accustomed to the idea that everything's easy, that everything's simple. There's even a petition to patch in an easy mode in Sekiro on change.org. It has 13 signatures. Sekiro is a very hard game. We want an easy mode, so at least we can finish the game. I asked Sony for a refund and was denied. Please patch in an easy mode. Thanks. Yeah, so this is where we're at. At least we know who the casuals are. We know who the noobs are. Seriously, just try. Try and get good, and you too will defeat the boss. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. Let me know what you think about Sekiro. Let me know what you think about Dark Souls. And let me know what you think about this article. Do gaming journalists need a gaming journalist difficulty level? Be sure to let me know. If you would like to support this content, you can do so on Patreon, Subscribestar, or through PayPal. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.